Go.
As Neil Armstrong said when he was the first American to step foot on the moon, that's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. Good morning, classmates, judges, opponents, and Mr. Redican. Today we are debating space and practically all that it entails. Our resolution, resolved that the U.S. federal government should substantially increase space exploration, is kind of a tricky concept to wrap your head around. In order to help you with that, my partner Heather and I will attempt to break down this resolution while proving to you that a significant increase is neither necessary nor desirable. To start off, I would like to define substantially by dictionary.com as of ample or considerable amount. As a negative, we are not saying that it would not benefit America to increase space exploration at all. However, we are telling you that a substantial increase is impractical and not in our country's best interest. In Armstrong's quote, he states that the exploration of the moon was a huge step for mankind as a whole. Since then, which the exact date was July 20th, 1969, no remarkable discoveries have actually been made. Although the United States has made it to Mars through unmanned missions, we need to admit that some aspects of space exploration are never going to be completed and are impractical. Manned missions to Mars, for example, are not something that we are currently having the technology to safely and effectively complete. In the 1960s, this issue was a similar topic of debate. The subject at hand resulted in an increase in space exploration, like our opponents, the affirmative, are trying to persuade is desirable again. Heather and I are not denying that because of this boost, exploration gains did occur. However, this is a natural response for any increase in any aspect of life. These strides only existed for about 10 to 15 years, and then, inevitably, the huge successes began to level off, and there have not been many gains since then. Because unmanned missions are starting to become more and more popular, this in turn means more and more money needed to complete successful missions. The money that is spent on unmanned missions into space can rather be spent to reduce poverty in the underdeveloped countries. This quote from Buzzle.com is only a small sector of how important cost is when considering exploring the universe beyond. Going to the moon and back is sort of a been there, done that for our country. We need something more exciting and fresh in order to gain support for our space program. However, an increase in cost is not an option right now, so our nation needs to continue to use money from moon missions to other more sensible space-related missions. Because we have proven that the moon is practically the only constellation tangible for manned missions to reach, unmanned missions would in fact be necessary in order for our space program to progress. However, unmanned missions provide no tangible benefits for our program. These motivations are so vague that it is not clear why space exploration is a particularly good way of satisfying them, rather than, for example, research on the inner space of the human mind, exploration of the rich environment of the Earth's oceans and surface, or development of new social institutions to increase human altruism, said Space.org. Although discoveries can be made and advancements can occur due to these missions, the lack of self-evidence that is acquired from manned space missions is unlike any other. And unmanned missions themselves cannot even guarantee success. Humans still occasionally have problems providing cell phone reception on Earth, let alone continuous communication with an object over 56 million kilometers away, says an article from the Huffington Post. This fact that all of us can relate to is an incredible thing to consider. When there are satellite problems with telephones of people who are only a few miles away, imagine the risk and possible waste of millions of dollars that can occur when sending robotic explorers millions and millions of miles away. An increase in space exploration almost immediately means an increase in governmental spending, since the resolution clearly states that the federal government would be the one increasing it. With this being said, we as the negative would like to negate any mentions from the affirmative of foreign exploration teams or private industries as valid points for their side, because neither of these are directly from the federal government. Although they could argue that spin-off technology could result from this increase in exploration, guaranteed results are impossible. There is no way to ensure that these things will definitely happen, and while initially there were many spin-offs for space exploration, now we are likely to get a smaller return for each additional dollar spent. The cost that would increase from the space exploration is not something that our economy currently needs. In the current economic climate, it is impossible to justify spending billions of dollars on these missions when the benefit is truly unknown, says spaceexploration.us. The knowledge gained from space exploration and experience does not even begin to cover the billions of dollars that will be spent for this substantial increase. Also, Increasing exploration in space could be seen as a threat to other nations. If our nation were to even begin to put weapons or satellites in space that are claimed and would actually most likely be for the safety of our planet as a whole, it could still be seen as a declaration of supremacy for our countries, and other nations will respond. This could all end up in a dangerous arms race, which could be detrimental to the existence of humankind. Debate Central is also continue to say that weapons in space would indeed be tempting targets for a preemptive attack by an adversary. Weapons of any kind are threatening and truly would create unnecessary tension and problems with our nation and other countries. In conclusion, Heather and I feel that an increase in space exploration would not be as beneficial as our opponents are going to attempt to persuade you that it is. The first few years may seem worth it, but inevitably another increase will be warranted, and this vicious cycle will only lead to an ending result of failure. The mights, costs, risks, and lack of things to do in space are all reasons to continue the status quo, continuing with our current ways of exploring the unknown. Let's keep the pace when exploring space. Thank you, and vote negative.